All right, Trustee Moses, if you could begin going through the virtual blue cards.
Sure. First comment that we have is from Jennifer Gabis of Dearborn. She said, I'm commenting today in support of a mask mandate for K-12. I support a mandate as a parent of 4 children attending Dearborn Public Schools, but also as a concerned member of our Dearborn community. We have an opportunity this year for the children to come back to school and learn in person, and we need to approach this opportunity wisely and respectfully. Continuing the practice of wearing masks in our school is a simple and straightforward way to protect our children and our teachers from contracting and spreading the virus. Additionally, this simple act serves as a wonderful example of our children, teaching them that if everyone takes simple measures, we can make a big difference in caring for protecting our community. The pandemic has illuminated and interconnected our responsibility to each other. Wearing a mask is a socially responsible because it is imperative that each of us do their part, even when we may view it as an imperfect solution to an inconvenience. There are many people playing the dangerous game with this virus, disregarding the science and the responsibility due to the terrible misinformation. But I hope they would come around to seeing that our children and our teachers are not pawns in the game. Masks will help our schools to stay open and operate in the way they do best. Last school year, the board demonstrated courage to make unpopular decisions in the name of protecting public health and safety. I sincerely hope that our whole community can be strong and mindful enough to protect each other in this school year. Mrs. Yoloxi Portillo of Dearborn said, I would like to applaud the school board for continuing to do their jobs, even when facing unprecedented harsh criticism for trying to do the right thing by our children. I fully support mask mandates in Dearborn Public Schools. It is one of our protections for unvaccinated children to attend in-person learning. We should be using HEPA filters in school buildings, along with increasing ventilation, social distancing, and spending time outdoors in conjunction with universal mask wearing. Please do not handicap our children by not giving them their best chance at returning to in-person learning. Mr. Damon Portillo, also of Dearborn, says the main debate this evening should not be centered around the potential negative effects of mask wearing. The potential negative effects of COVID are much worse. The question we all need to focus on is, are we doing everything possible to protect ourselves and our children? First from death, second from disease and sickness. Then and only then we are afforded the luxury of focusing on other things. Parents who are so against their children wearing a mask in school or are either ill-informed, misguided, or both. Masks are only a few tools available to us currently that help prevent the spread of COVID-19. We must utilize them. If every child isn't required to wear a mask until vaccinations are available to their age group, excluding those who cannot wear a mask for medical reasons, then we cannot answer yes to the following question. Are we doing everything possible to protect our children? Let's keep our priorities straight. Let's keep our children safe, and let's not take any unnecessary risks when the stakes are so high. Requiring masks for everyone in school until vaccinations are available is absolutely, undeniably the best option we have right now to keep our children safe. After all opinions are heard and all the information are taken into account, there is only one logical conclusion: require masks. Now it is the time to act. When a child is in the ICU fighting for their life because they contracted COVID from one of their classmates, it will be too late then. Thank you for your time. Allison Wolowski says, I'm writing tonight as a concerned parent of 3 children that attend Dearborn Public Schools, one in elementary, middle school, and high school. I want to extend our gratitude for the safety procedures that have been implemented with in-person instruction last spring. We are supporting a required mask for in-person instruction this fall, following the CDC recommendation of universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. Children should return to full-time in-person learning in the fall with these layered prevention strategies in place. These protections will support safe return to school learning. Catherine Zemanicki of Allen Park says, please make decisions based on the science, not politics, and those with the loudest voices. Your responsibility is to protect students and faculty and staff from those who would make them political pawns. Jane Dareth of Grosse Pointe Woods says, I believe that teachers and students should continue to wear masks for the protection of our population. At the elementary level, students cannot get vaccinated and are vulnerable to the virus. Not all teachers are vaccinated either, so protecting the unprotected is a wise choice. It is the common good of the district. Ms.
Trustee
Samira
Moses,
Nashel, yes.
before you go on, I heard a murmur in the crowd, and I had thought the same thing, that we've had a couple of comments from people outside of the city of Dearborn. There's nothing that says that only people in our district are allowed to address this board. We have to listen to all comments. So that's why we're getting some that are coming from outside the area. Go on and continue, please.
Sure. Ms. Samira Nashel of Dearborn said, when deciding on a mask-related policies, please consider the children and parents in your final decision. Masks return home in terrible condition, and the thought that my child has been breathing in for the entire of the day worries me. And I'm talking about kids in elementary and middle school. A mask is constantly tugged and not maintained. To say the absolute least defeats the purpose that it was intended for in the first place. We parents should be given the option on whether our children will or will not wear, as opposed to it being mandated. We're asking for a choice, not for everybody or everyone to go maskless. This complaint isn't just my own. I've spoken to many parents at my kids' school who share the same view and are waiting anxiously on the decision they feel they should have a say in. Mr. Jesse Rafferty of Dearborn says, as we spend time teaching our children the basic principles of learning, including math and scientific methods, the importance of history to understand our world today, and the importance of hard work, I believe it is only logical that we follow the guidance of those who have applied those tools to become doctors, epidemiologists, and public health officials. These are the citizens that we rely on for information regarding the management of exposure during a pandemic. The CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics both recommend mask use regardless of vaccination status as part of a layered approach in addressing the spread of COVID-19. It is our responsibility to follow the recommendations from the very people who once walked in the halls of our schools. Mrs. Michelle Leonard of Dearborn said, I would like to encourage the board to mandate masks as the school year starts. I understand this is a difficult issue for many, but the Delta variant is ramping up in our community. Recent studies have shown that this variant is more contagious even among those who are vaccinated, and children are not immune to this virus or this variant, as may have been the case with previous versions. At this point, only middle school and high school students are eligible for vaccination. Our elementary students are left most vulnerable, and universal masking is the way to protect them until they are eligible. CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and Michigan's own Dr. Khaldoun have suggested that this is well based on available data. We all want our children to learn the best way they can, but the safety of everyone needs to be paramount. Alice Haley of Dearborn Says Superintendent Maleko and members of the board, I'm writing to request that you institute a universal mask for a mandate for our students and staff, parents, and anyone who enters the buildings or attends a crowded outdoor event in Dearborn Public Schools property. Given the way that our last board's agenda was organized, it's possible that you have already announced such a decision, in which I applaud your leadership in keeping our families safe. If, however, a mask mandate has been rejected or is still under debate, I would like to offer the following thoughts for your consideration. A year ago, one of your justification for going all virtual curriculum delivery was because there is no vaccine for COVID-19. That is still true for preschool through 11-year-olds. Less than 30% of Michiganders in the 12 to 15-year-old range are fully vaccinated. As far as less than 40% of those in the 16 to 19-year-old range. Even with full vaccination, the Delta variant is leading to many breakthrough infections, which while less likely to cause death or hospitalization, can still be transmitted to others who do not have the level of protection. And the American Academy of Pediatrics, the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, MDHHS, and the Michigan Association of Family Physicians strongly recommend that schools require masks to be worn by all those who enter their premises. Dearborn has been always one of the hotter zones for COVID-19 transmission in Wayne County, as measured by week-to-week case numbers. Some folks argue that children cases of COVID-19 are mild, are unlikely to lead to hospitalization or death, but the Delta variant is proving this wrong. As the states where schools started without a mask mandate are seeing new highs of community transitions, and pediatric ICUs are being overwhelmed. We might be on the brink of the worst COVID-19 surge the state has ever seen. Our 7-day average of new cases per day is nearly triple what it was this time last summer. Honestly, the rate looks more like mid-October 2020 or early March 2021, when we were about to explode with new infections. And while I do worry about mortality for some of our children, parents, and staff, I'm also worried about the long-term consequences of surviving COVID-19. It will be decades before we know all the harm that is caused by suffering this new disease as a child. I believe the comment is way longer than that.
Yeah, and you're at 3 minutes now. Thanks.
So I would go to the next comment. Ms. Haley or Mr. Haley sent a lot of also links that we need to look out. So they are in the comments as well. Ms. Carol Reynoso of Dearborn says, I would like to comment that I support starting out the school year requiring students to wear masks. Wayne County, that is currently an area of substantial transmission. As COVID numbers increase and all students are not vaccinated, it makes sense to require masks. We owe it to our children to make sure that they can attend school in person this year. Quarantines would be very disruptive for our children and teachers alike, and virtual learning is not a good option for many students. Please consider starting the year with universal masking and reevaluating the decision at your monthly meetings. I strongly support any measures we can put into place that will allow our students to return to in-person learning on a daily basis. Ms. Caroline Rowe, teacher of Detroit, says, please continue to require masks for in-person instruction. We've already seen the chaos of mass quarantines and renewed school shutdowns in other parts of the country when students have returned without safety measures in place. The measures our district has taken this far have been effective in preventing spread within our schools. Now that schools are opening at full capacity with social distancing challenges, it is important that we continue to follow the advice of the experts. along with the HEPA filter kits provided by Ford. Universal masking can help our children, our community safe, and our schools open. Let's continue to get this right in Dearborn. Miss Michelle Subwarn of doesn't mention the city. Good evening. Based on the MDHS recommendations for safe school operating during COVID-19 and the current COVID data in Wayne County, I ask the board to please require face masks for all students, including K-5 elementary students. If we plan to open our elementary students or elementary schools at full capacity and have unvaccinated student groups rotate through special area rooms daily, masks are of a vital importance to student safe staff and family safety. I also ask the board to reconsider a hybrid start to this fall, K-5 until elementary students are become eligible for vaccination. The MDHHS currently recommends social distancing in addition to masks for all students and staff. With full-size classes, social distancing will not be possible. Social distancing is especially important at this time, given the far more contagious Delta variant. A hybrid schedule would provide students with in-person learning time, and I also allow for social distancing. Thank you for your time and for hearing my concerns. Mrs. Mary Therese Lemanque of Allen Park says, it is important to make masks mandatory for students, staff, and visitors to school buildings and indoor events. This will serve the community by keeping families healthy and students in the classroom. Please adhere to the CDC and pediatric advice to enforce mask wearing. Thank you. Ms. Lorelli Muniz of Dearborn says, please require masks for at least the first month in all DPS buildings. I'm a parent of 2 children in the district. The vaccination rate in Michigan is 54%, and the extremely contagious Delta strain is here. Case counts are increasing, and children under 12 have only masks as protection. I appreciate the caution and science-based decision-making you made last year. Please continue to have the health and safety of Dearborn school children and families as your first priority. As trustees, you made decisions that saved lives last year. We all want this pandemic to be over, but it's not. In-person instruction with masks would benefit the learning and health of everyone. I appreciate your resilience and courage and have the confidence that you will continue to make life-saving choices. Thank you for leading the district that I'm very proud to live and have my children attend. Mrs. Joanne Rafferty of Dearborn says, I believe the school should have mask mandate for all staff and students to follow the CDC and the Michigan Health Department's guidelines. It is important that we keep our students and staff as safe as possible. It is also proven that wearing a mask will keep students from transmitting the virus to family members at home, such as parents, grandparents, and neighbors. Dearborn Public Schools should put the safety of all students and staff first. Ms. Nancy Zizek of Dearborn says data from the Wayne County Health Department confirms that Dearborn continues to have more cases of COVID than other cities in Wayne County. Only 43% of eligible Wayne County residents are fully vaccinated, and the entire country is at high risk for COVID community transmission, or county, I'm sorry. While, of course, none of the children younger than 12 can be vaccinated at all. The Delta variant is turning into a scourge, putting unprecedented numbers of kids in the hospital. Every reputable science and medical organization, including the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, now recommends masks to be worn while indoors. Why is there even a question about this? because a loud and potentially violent minority is holding us all hostages to this nonsense. I understand that members of the school boards and superintendent are untenable position with stalking and physical attacks by violent anti-mask zealots on the rise. I understand that there are the same people who are prone to violent outbursts, who are typically the first to wave around their guns, who have the past murdered doctors for doing their jobs. These are not safe people, and it is exactly why this paranoid delusions must not be indulged when it comes to health and safety of our children. Those of us who are committed to the well-being of the community in our public schools are asking you to follow the science on this. Mandate indoor masks, use, promote vaccination, and require regular COVID testing for contact sports.
Trustee
Schools have
Moses,
rules. Yes.
we're at about the break on that one. Do
Sure.
you want
It's,
to, sorry, I was gonna say, do
Take a
you
break.
want to take a break for a moment?
Sure, yeah, Trustee Watts, or you can continue.
Mrs. Louise Ryan from Allen Park. As an educator, none of us thought we would be facing another year of uncertainty, particularly when it comes to our personal health and that of our students. Yet we are. Please consider standing up for and behind the science. How can we teach science in the classrooms and then back it up in real life situations? Masks are a proven scientific method for help with the prevention of the spread of COVID-19 and the variant. As an educational institution, please consider mask mandates in school. Miss Mary Stover from Dearborn, I recognize that public schools are an important community resource. I support mandatory mask usage for staff and students. This person is anonymous. Do I continue? Do I?
Normally just summarize that.
Okay. I'll come back to that one, sorry. Miss Diane Hall from Dearborn. As a president of a regional astronomy club, I consider education and outreach a calling. My club has seized public outreach events for the foreseeable future, specifically because children under 12 cannot yet be vaccinated, and the wonders of the night sky are not worth exposing any child to the risk of severe illness or death. The myth that children cannot get or spread COVID-19 is a pernicious one demonstrated again and again to be false. The ICUs of Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida demonstrate its falsity again as we speak. I believe education matters, and I believe that safety matters. A masking mandate in schools would allow heightened safety for children too young to be vaccinated. And the growing list of quarantined and sickened children coming out of states that have rejected masking for the school year demonstrates the folly of pretending one's way out of a pandemic. Education that teaches children to cut corners on safety and damn the fallout if not a trade you should be in. Ms. Amanda Wolski, thank you for all the COVID protocols you've put in place to keep our students and staff safe. I'm asking you to continue following all protocols, including masks. The CDC recommends universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to P12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. Students missed a lot of school in the past year and a half. Please help do everything possible to reduce the spread and keep them physically present in our classroom. Mr. Brian Wolski. While masks may be an inconvenience, it's a worthwhile effort everyone can take to help decrease the probability of a viral spread in our schools and can increase the probability of keeping children in the classroom. Please continue to follow the science and require masks. Ms. Linda Bales. Will teachers be required to attend professional development prior to the start of the school year in person? Making teachers meet in a crowded auditoriums may jeopardize in-person learning, which is more beneficial to students. If social distancing cannot be attained during the training, teachers should be given the option to attend remotely so they can successfully start the school year. Ms. Heather Yao. Masks need to be required. This is a basic step to keep our students safe. This ought to be a no-brainer. Keep our students safe while at school. Ashley Godfrey-Quam. To the Board of Education for Dearborn Public Schools. I am writing as a concerned Dearborn resident and a parent of a school-aged child, of school-aged children, excuse me. I urge the board to require masks in all schools while the COVID-19 pandemic continues to threaten public health. At current time, the WHO, the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Children's Hospital Association, and the MDHHS recommend that both unvaccinated and vaccinated wear masks in schools to contain the spread of COVID-19. She attached an article here that shows the pediatric infection rates are growing exponentially. For the week ending August 12th, pediatric cases account for 18% of the new COVID cases. Dearborn must do its part to help mitigate the spread by requiring face masks, regular testing, quarantine procedures, and contact tracing. This protects the students, the staff, the families of students and staff, and the community as a whole. If masks are not required and COVID spreads unchecked, then in-person attendance this year and continuity of learning is at stake. According modeling completed by scientists at North Carolina State University, and she linked the article, without masking and regular testing, 90% of students under 12 who are too young to be vaccinated may become infected with COVID by the end of the first semester of school. The resulting absenteeism would be devastating for the school year. Mr. Joshua Elling of Dearborn. I would first like to thank the school board, administration, teachers, and staff of Dearborn Public Schools for all that they have done to help us get through the pandemic. Thank you. I also want to strongly encourage Dearborn Public Schools to continue to require mask wearing for all staff, students, and anyone who enters a school. This is the only way we can ensure student safety and allow us to continue in-person schooling. Thank you for your consideration and keep up the good work. Father of Nora Elling, who is a 6th grade Bryant Middle School, and Max Elling, a 3rd grade elementary at Lindbergh. Miss Mary K. Kubiak of Dearborn. Please institute a mask mandate for all Dearborn Public School students and staff. I could list all the health professional groups that have recommended masks this school year because of the lack of vaccinations and the rise of the COVID variants. But as our school board members, I know you have read the recommendations. I'm asking you to not listen to the rantings and ravings of the anti-mask flat earthers. Their selfishness and disregard for science should not guide school policy. Our primary mission has long been to put students first, and the only way our students get to return to in-person safely is by requiring masks. Brandy Ahmed from Dearborn. Greetings, board members and Mr. Superintendent. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I imagine the stress of tonight's meeting and the pressure from the public is heavy on your shoulders, and therefore I thank you for your due diligence in taking our comments and listening to our concerns. My daughter Bellamy is going into 1st grade. We hate the masks. It's definitely an inconvenience and they hinder our style. But my daughter, who is 6, also worries about COVID and the new Delta variant. More importantly, she tells me she believes it's her responsibility to be mindful of others' health and well-being. She doesn't want anyone sick or even worse, spread an infection that could possibly kill someone else. We unfortunately know the reach in which COVID can take over one's health. We also unfortunately know this is such a controversial topic, but we ask that just as we have trusted in you as board members and the school administrators to do the job that you've been trained to do or voted in for it, that you trust the healthcare professionals, scientists, and disease experts who are trying to guide us through this pandemic, strongly urging mask mandate in our public schools across the country. If it saves one life alone in our community, the inconvenience is well worth it. From our family to the Dearborn Public Schools family, we wish you a smooth start to the upcoming school year. Thank you. Anonymous, let me see if I can summarize it. It was just she was just trying to say that because these mitigation plans weren't given beforehand, and that they would have liked to have more of a heads up regarding our mitigation plans. Weston Matthewquam, Dearborn. To the Board of Education for Dearborn Public Schools. I am writing as a Dearborn resident and a parent of school-aged children. I urge the board to require masks in all schools while the COVID-19 pandemic continues to threaten public health. At the current time, the WHO, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Children's Hospital Association, and the MDHHS recommend that both unvaccinated and vaccinated wear masks while indoors to contain the spread. If masks are not required and COVID is permitted unchecked spread, the in-person attendance this school year and continuity of learning is at stake. According to scientists in North Carolina, they linked it again, the article, without masking and regular testing, 90% of students under 12 who are too young to be vaccinated will become infected with COVID by the end of the first semester. I understand that there is a small group of parents who are loudly protesting the wearing of masks. Science does not support their opinions and their emotions are not rooted in science. I urge you to implement a mask mandate. Mr. Nathan Gabis of Dearborn. I'm a father of 4 students in the Dearborn Public School System. I would like to start off by thanking the board and the administration for steering our schools through the last year and a half. I don't envy the tough choices you've had to make, nor the heated comments you've had to endure from some in the community. I may not always agree, but I believe that the board's decisions have been made with careful deliberation and in accordance with the students' best interests. Having said that, I would like to encourage the board to start off the school year with a mask mandate for all students. I can appreciate that some may feel that it's an infringement upon their rights to require masking. However, as this is a matter of public health, it seems reasonable to take the small precaution to protect the health and well-being of our students, school staff, and community at large. Hopefully, a little extra precaution now will keep spread down so that learning can continue in the classroom with minimal disruption.
Trustee Watts. Trustee Moses, do you want to pick it back up?
Yep, I can definitely take it from here. Thank you, Trustee Watts. Mrs. Sandra Miller of Dearborn says, I'd like to lend my support for a universal masking requirement at school, at least to start the year and until it is deemed safe to lift, along with maintaining distancing guidelines and improved ventilation. With mask and distancing in place, when opening March, school felt safe and data showed it was safe. Unfortunately, with the Delta variant, we are again in need of mask mandate and distancing guidelines to limit the spread. My children will attend the school year with masks, but I'm not certain that will be enough to protect them if others are not wearing masks. I also want to limit community spread, which was accomplished with the protocol in place last year. I'm sure we all would like to keep kids in school and not have to shut down. Mrs. Suzanne Ladlick of Livonia says, I'm a teacher in the district. I support mandatory masking for staff and students to begin the school year with the Delta variant and increasing COVID infections in recent weeks. This will keep everyone safe and healthy. Ms. Laura Dudgeon of Dearborn says, why risk even one student, friend, or family? Please mandate masks for indoor schools. Ms. Rachel Mayer says, I would like to recommend all students and staff to wear masks so that in-person learning can continue and it reduces the risk of having to go back to virtual learning due to an outbreak. Ms. Alina Lawrence of Dearborn says, why are masks not required for K-12 students? Will 6 feet of distance be maintained in classrooms? Mr. Tariq Baidoun of Dearborn says, Dear board members, I'm a lifelong resident, homeowner, business owner, and a father of 2 school-aged children in the city of Dearborn. I'm truly saddened and disappointed that anyone would presume to decide for the parents whether or not to cover the faces of their children for the 6 hours a day. At the beginning of this meeting, you took a pledge, liberty, and justice for all, not safety for all. You are not and never will be guarantors of safety from all risks of all mild viral pathogens. Mandatory masking has already led us to a cliff towards the loss of our liberty. The board is not qualified to make these decisions. Leave it to the parents and to the experts they trust. They alone are the ones empowered by their creator to decide how they will pursue their health and happiness. Thank you for your careful consideration of your roles and your responsibilities. Ms. Cindy Root said, my question is, are teachers allowed to remove or lower their mask while they are teaching? Since I see presenters and Dr. Maleko lower their masks while they are speaking or answering questions. Mrs. Muna Mashrah of Dearborn said, I want to request that board members' masks to be worn by all. Since we are going back to in-person with full student numbers, some of the previous safety mandates cannot be done, such as social distancing. With the Delta variant in full swing and impacting youth, the least the board should do is implementing a mask mandate. It should be required, not optional. That is the bare minimum to support safety. We cannot pretend that COVID is over and the masks continue to be the best preventive measure along with hand washing. For a district that brags about best practices, it is shameful that you are not following when it comes to masks. Also, I want to express my dismay on how unruly individuals were handled at the previous board meeting. After they repeatedly disregarded requests to settle down and stop being disruptive, they should have been kicked out or removed. And I was disappointed in the way President Thorpe tried to move on without allowing Trustee Moses to finish speaking. You should not move on and not allow someone to speak just because some people in the audience don't like what he has to say. I found it to be dismissive and offensive and would hope that every board member is respected enough to have the opportunity to speak without being rushed or silenced. Ms. Karen Hansen of Dearborn said, I am a substitute teacher in the district and a parent, and I'm not comfortable being in classrooms with kids who are not wearing masks, especially if they are under the age of 12. I've read all of the recommendations from the State Board of Education and have watched districts across the country mandate masks in schools. It's only the way to keep COVID numbers down and keep everyone safe. The kids I know have not had a problem wearing masks. It's a small number of parents who are making masks political. It's a health and safety issue. Please do the right thing. Thank you. Then we have anonymous comments. Mrs. Anna M. of Dearborn. In summary, she supports mask mandates, at least for elementary students where students cannot be vaccinated. Ms. Educator, again anonymous, the summary wants to suggest that teachers and students be allowed to remove masks while presenting information if they are at least 10 feet away from someone, and if class size will be reevaluated to increase social distancing. Another anonymous comment, Jane Doe, fear of retaliation. In summary, she said, for the school year, the district had failed to make timely decisions regarding the pandemic. Administrators and the Board of Education shirked their responsibility. Concerned parent and teacher said, please require masks for the protection of teachers and students. High school student said, in summary, I am a high risk of contracting COVID, but masks make me feel safe. And those are the end of comment, Mr. President.